The darkness of the night had enveloped the entire city. In the heart of Brooklyn's old neighborhood was a crooked alley, where only the dim glow of broken streetlights provided any visibility. It was the kind of place no one willingly ventured into. Amid the cold gusts of wind and an eerie silence, there lingered a sense of hidden conspiracy. On the rooftop of an old, decrepit building stood a man cloaked in quiet resolve. His name was Omari. A cigarette rested between his fingers, though his thoughts were elsewhere. The sharpness of his features and the restlessness in his eyes betrayed the storm brewing within him. Something big was about to unfold. His phone, set on vibrate, repeatedly displayed a name in his call logs, Ayana. "It's time," Omari muttered to himself, taking one final drag of his cigarette. He flicked the smoldering butt to the ground and reached into his coat pocket, pulling out a small, weathered diary. On one page, a single name was scrawled, Abioye. Beneath the name was a faint sketch of a face, one that had left an indelible mark on his heart. This night wasn't just a journey, it was a reckoning. Below the building, a woman stood by a black SUV. Her name was Zuri, and her eyes held a mix of emotions, fear, anger, perhaps even regret. She unlocked her phone and typed a brief message, "He's coming, be ready." The moment she hit send, her heartbeat quickened. She knew whatever lay ahead would irrevocably change their lives. Inside the old building, behind a creaky, weathered door, Ayana sat in front of her computer screen. She was sending an encrypted email. Her movements deliberate, but her heartbeat echoing loudly in her ears. From an old radio, the haunting notes of Moonlight Sonata filled the room, amplifying the tension. On the screen, a chilling message was displayed. Target? Omari. Suddenly, the sharp sound of a gunshot shattered the quiet night. Omari instinctively ducked on the rooftop, his senses now on high alert. From his pocket, he pulled out a pistol and carefully began descending the stairs. Between the crumbling walls of the alleyway, only one sound resonated, the soft, deliberate thud of his boots. "Abioye," Omari whispered, summoning courage just to utter the name. "Tonight, it all ends." Elsewhere, in an old garage filled with the scent of grease and oil, Abioye stood calmly, a revolver in his hand that he meticulously cleaned. Though his body seemed at ease, his eyes betrayed an inner turmoil. He unlocked his phone to read Zuri's message. "He's coming. Be ready." "Perfect," Abioye said with a faint smile. He slid the revolver into his pocket and signaled to the men around him. "Take your positions." The cold night air turned even more biting. Echoes from the alley, perhaps a stray cat or the sound of someone breathing, added to the tension. Omari tightened the collar of his coat and moved cautiously toward the garage, each step measured, his resolve unwavering. Back inside the flat, Ayana locked her computer screen and grabbed her bag. She paused briefly, catching her reflection in the dusty window, a person weighed down by the consequences of their decisions. Convincing herself, she whispered, "This is necessary." Near the corner of the alley, Zuri started the SUV's engine and slowly turned into a shadowy side street. Her hands gripped the wheel tightly, and her breath came in shallow bursts. "I hope this goes as planned," she murmured to herself. As Omari approached the garage, a strange silence greeted him. A shadow flitted across his vision, and his pulse quickened. He disengaged the safety on his pistol and carefully slipped inside. The interior was dark, lit only by the weak glow of a single hanging bulb. "Abioye," Omari called out, his voice steady yet laced with unease. "Come out. We need to talk." Emerging from the shadows, Abioye stepped forward, his hands casually resting in his pockets. His face was composed, but his eyes burned with a fierce intensity. "So, you finally came, Omari," he said with a calm tone. "I thought you wouldn't have the guts." Omari's hands trembled slightly, but he steadied himself. "Why are you doing this? Abioye, you know this isn't right." Abioye took a step closer, his voice cold. "Right and wrong are luxuries of those who have everything. What was taken from me, I'm taking it back tonight." Suddenly a loud noise came from behind. Omari whipped around, his pistol raised, but there was only darkness. The realization dawned on him, this was just the beginning. Tonight wasn't merely a confrontation between the two of them. It was a test for everyone tangled in this web of deceit and revenge. Abioye is a name that embodies the contradictions of life. A living paradox. Despite growing up in the harsh realities of a poor Brooklyn neighborhood, surrounded by struggles and scarcity, his desire to become something extraordinary never dimmed. The simple moments of childhood kept the light of his dreams alive, but his life took a sharp turn when his father was killed in a mafia-related attack. That incident planted the seed of vengeance in his heart and gave his thoughts a new direction. Abioye is an unsolved puzzle, a man constantly seeking new paths and uncharted destinations. Every step he takes is a calculated risk, and every decision is part of a larger conspiracy. Deep down, he is on a journey of self-discovery, trying to find balance between his ambitions and his emotions. Will Abioye be able to break free from the shadows of his past and write a new story for himself? Ayana is the epitome of someone who has mastered the art of turning pain into power. Her philosophy of life is like a chessboard. Every move is strategically planned, and every step is taken with calculated precision. Ayana is a strong and independent woman, driven by an unyielding passion to do whatever it takes to fulfill her mission. But Ayana's story isn't confined to just one mission. Despite a past marred by tragedy, she has managed to remain empathetic and deeply human. Her greatest motivation is to protect her family, yet the truth relentlessly follows her, shaping her path. While her connection to Omari and Abioye isn't direct, it is like an invisible thread intertwining their lives. Every decision Ayana makes plays a pivotal role in shaping the narrative, adding depth and complexity to the unfolding story. Omari's character is a walking paradox, a cold-blooded mastermind who always thinks one step ahead, yet internally battles a storm of emotions. A deep betrayal has turned his humanity into something mechanical, where feelings are kept at a distance, and his mind is his most potent weapon. However, hidden within Omari's story lies an unspoken truth. He is caught in a struggle between his identity and his life's purpose. With every move, he crafts a new strategy, but there are moments when his heart gets in the way of his plans. His greatest strength is his intellect, but his emotions could become his biggest weakness. Will Omari take charge of writing his destiny, or will someone else decide the turning point of his story? Zuri's character is an enigma, a hacker who masters technology to achieve her goals, yet her eyes conceal a hidden pain that holds the key to her true story. Her sharp dialogues and witty actions showcase her intelligence, but Zuri is a layered personality, where her past follows her every decision like a haunting shadow. Zuri's connection deepens the rivalry between Omari and Abioye, acting as a silent force in the story that amplifies tension at every turn. However, the biggest question remains, whose side is Zuri really on? Is she standing with the truth, or is she playing an entirely different game of her own? The night had draped Brooklyn's industrial area in its shadowy embrace. An old warehouse stood silently, its broken windows and rusted doors telling stories of long-forgotten times. Inside, an eerie stillness filled the air, as if every corner was waiting for something ominous to unfold. This was the place where a tale was about to spiral into its first real conflict. Abioye stepped inside, his movements slow and deliberate. Each step he took on the cracked concrete floor echoed faintly, a sound that seemed to challenge the quiet around him. In his hands he clutched an old yellow diary, a treasure trove of memories, and at the same time a burden he couldn't let go of. "This is the place," he murmured to himself, his voice low yet heavy with conviction. His sharp eyes scanned every corner of the dimly lit space, as if searching not for a person but for a hidden truth. For a moment, his mind wandered back to haunting memories. His mother's terrified screams, his father's futile battle against intruders, and that final, devastating moment when he fell. These recollections were both Abioye's strength and his greatest weakness. But tonight, he had come to put an end to this chapter. Somewhere nearby, a contrasting scene was unfolding. Inside a sleek surveillance room, Omari sat on a throne-like chair, his gaze fixed on a massive screen. The cold glow of monitors illuminated his expressionless face, giving away nothing, no fear, no anger, no remorse. Omari's most loyal ally, Adisa, stood behind him, his posture tense. "Boss, he seems smart. If he catches our spy, the entire plan could fall apart," Adisa warned. Omari cut him off with a slight smirk. "The spy doesn't matter. The boy is here for one reason, and that's his downfall. This game will end, Adisa, but on my terms." His voice carried an unsettling mix of arrogance and unshakable control. Miles away, in the dim glow of a cramped apartment, Zuri sat in front of her laptop. Her fingers danced over the keyboard, navigating through lines of encrypted code that guarded a truth powerful enough to shatter Omari's empire. "This is it," she muttered, her tone steady yet laced with unease. "The file that can bring everything crashing down." Yet, despite her confidence, a lingering doubt clouded her thoughts. Was she truly on the right side of this fight? Or was this mission just a means to bury her own secrets deeper? Zuri focused on her screen, her mind racing as she decoded layer after layer. Tonight, she had to make a choice, whether to follow her conscience or protect her own survival. At a small dining table, Ayana and Kofi sat across from each other, their intense conversation charging the air between them. "Do you really think you can pull this off, Ayana? You've got one shot. If you fail..." Kofi's voice was heavy with anger, but the pain behind it was unmistakable. Ayana exhaled deeply, her resolve unwavering. "If I don't do this, Kofi, we're all dead. I need Abioye and Zuri's help, but this battle is mine to fight." Kofi stared at her, his jaw clenched. Anger flickered in his eyes, but beneath it lay a deep, unspoken concern. "Just don't make a mistake you can't come back from," he said quietly before turning away. Back in the warehouse, the silence was abruptly broken. A faint sound reached Abioye's ears. He turned sharply, his muscles tensing as a shadow emerged from the doorway. Slowly, Omari stepped into the dim light, his imposing figure exuding power and control. "Abioye." Omari's voice cut through the stillness, calm yet piercing. "Your father tried to play this game too. Look where it got him." Anger surged through Abioye, his fists clenching. "You think you've won? Your plans are nothing but illusions." Omari's smirk deepened. "Illusions? You'll understand soon enough, but by then, it'll be too late." Suddenly, a deafening explosion shook the warehouse. Dust and debris filled the air as part of the structure collapsed. Abioye stumbled, his communicator buzzing to life. "Abioye, you have 5 minutes to get out of there." Zuri's voice crackled urgently through the device. "Trust me, or it's all over." Abioye paused, his mind racing. He growled into the communicator. "If you're betraying me, Zuri, remember, there's nowhere you can hide." Abioye now found himself in a small storage room, tucked away deep within the warehouse where he had narrowly escaped the explosion. His communicator was still active, but Zuri's voice was nowhere to be heard. He pressed the button repeatedly, frustration evident in his every move. "Zuri, listen to me. Tell me how to get out of this maze. You know this whole place is a trap." Yet, all he got in response was static. Endless, nerve-wracking static. His heart was torn in two. Could he really trust Zuri, or had she merely used him to further her own agenda? The question swirled in his mind, a storm of anger and doubt. But even in this moment of uncertainty, one thing remained crystal clear. His mission: to dismantle Omari's plans and seek justice for his parents. Miles away, Zuri sat in her dimly lit apartment, hunched over her laptop. A complex decryption process was running on the screen, its progress bar crawling forward painfully slowly. Her heart raced with every passing second. Come on," she muttered under her breath, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Yet a heavy confusion clouded her mind. Was she truly helping Abioye, or was this all just a way to secure her own escape? Suddenly the screen flickered, and a hidden folder opened before her eyes. Her breath caught as she saw a name that stopped her heart for a moment. Adisa. "So this all leads back to Adisa," she whispered, her voice trembling with realization. Her focus sharpened. She wasn't just a hacker anymore. She was now the key to uncovering Omari's empire's deepest secrets. In the surveillance room, Omari sat in cold silence, his eyes fixed on the screens that tracked Abioye's every move. His expression was unreadable, calm yet laced with a foreboding intensity. Adisa walked in, placing a file on the table before him. "Everything is ready, boss. One more mistake from that boy, and we'll end this for good," Adisa said with unwavering confidence. Omari responded with a cold smile. "Victory lies in understanding your enemy's every move. Abioye still believes he's in control, but the true power lies with the one who sees beyond the next step." Just then, a notification flashed on the screen. Zuri's system access has been blocked from our network, Adisa reported. Omari's face hardened. So, Zuri has chosen to play against us, he said, his voice heavy with anger. Turning to Adisa, he gave a single sharp command. Take her down. In a hidden hideout, Ayana and Kofi sat across from each other, tension thick in the air. A detailed map of Omari's operations lay spread out before them, a blueprint of the empire they sought to dismantle. If we do this without Abioye, we're bound to fail, Ayana said, her voice steady but laced with urgency. Kofi responded with frustration. And if we wait for him, Omari will make his next move and we won't even get a chance to reach him. Ayana took a deep breath. This is a gamble, Kofi. But I know one thing. If the three of us stand together, we can win this game. Kofi's expression softened slightly, but the worry in his eyes remained. Just don't make a mistake we can't undo, he said quietly. In a hidden corridor of the warehouse, Abioye noticed a faint light. His heart skipped a beat, but he quickly steadied himself and moved cautiously toward it. At the end of the corridor, he found a secret room with a projector playing an old video. On the screen was the face of his father, speaking with a serious and determined expression. If you're seeing this, son, it means Omari is still alive, his father said. It's up to you to fulfill our dream. But remember, this fight isn't just for you. It's for every soul that has suffered under Omari's tyranny. Tears welled up in Abioye's eyes, but his resolve only grew stronger. Activating his communicator, he said, Zuri, are you listening? I know you have answers. If there's something you're hiding, now is the time to tell me. A voice crackled through the communicator, cutting through the static. Abioye, you have only one chance. If you don't play your cards right against Omari, everything will be lost. Zuri, burdened by her secrets, walked a precarious path. Omari, fueled by his lust for power, sought to control every move, and Abioye, caught between his heart and mind, struggled to find balance. In the dark, Abioye stood alone, his heart pounding in his chest. The corridor stretched out before him like an unending labyrinth, and every step felt like a gamble with fate. His communicator buzzed faintly in his hand. Pressing the button firmly, he said one more time, Zuri, answer me. But only silence greeted him, an ominous reminder that his path forward was riddled with uncertainty. And yet, with no other choice, Abioye pushed forward into the unknown. Inside the warehouse, an overwhelming silence filled the air, but Abioye's heartbeat kept growing louder. A faint glow from a small flashlight in his hand became his only ally as he navigated the labyrinth-like pathways of the maze. Every turn seemed to hold a new challenge, a new conspiracy. It felt as if each step was being anticipated, an unspoken battle between predator and prey. A rusty steel door creaked, drawing Abioye's cautious steps toward it. A strange sound, like wind slipping through a cracked window, amplified the fear in his heart. The darkness was so dense now that even the flashlight's beam couldn't fully reveal the maze's path. He activated his communicator once again. Zuri, respond. I can't do this without you. But all he received was static. Suddenly, a faint sound echoed behind him. It was hard to identify, perhaps a stone falling or the faintest trace of footsteps. Abioye tried to steady his breathing, but one question consumed his mind. Who else could be here? Elsewhere, Omari was seated in his surveillance room, a strange calmness on his face. The screens displayed live footage of Abioye from every angle. Adisa stood nearby at a control panel. This is the moment to end it all, Omari said, his voice laced with a sinister smirk. Abioye is in his final test, but he doesn't know that every step he takes has already been planned. Adisa, busy following orders, paused and glanced at Omari. Zuri is also close to Abioye's location, but we've blocked her every move. Omari's icy smile grew wider. Zuri now has only one choice, betrayal or sacrifice. Meanwhile, Zuri sat in a small hideout, her laptop screen showing a map with Abioye's real-time coordinates. Her heart was torn between guilt and determination. Was she truly loyal to Abioye, or was she merely playing her own game for freedom? Abioye, she whispered, but her voice couldn't reach him due to the blocked signal. I can still help you, but that means I'll have to re-enter Omari's system. In a hidden room within the warehouse, Abioye discovered a machine that looked old and outdated. A numeric code blinked on its surface. "This must be one of Omari's plans," he muttered to himself, clenching his fists as he began analyzing the code. Suddenly, the room's lights began to flicker. Footsteps echoed behind him. A heavy metal door creaked open, revealing two of Omari's bodyguards armed with automatic weapons. Abioye raised his hands, but his mind was already crafting a plan. Slowly, his hand moved toward a small device concealed in his pocket. "If you've got a heroic move, now's the time," one of the guards sneered. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Then, in a burst of sparks and a blinding flash, the room plunged into darkness. Abioye quickly bolted toward another door. The beeping machine faded into the background as he moved, each step drawing him deeper into danger. At another entrance to the warehouse, Ayana and Kofi slipped in unnoticed. Ayana held a small transmitter disrupting Omari's internal systems. "We don't have much time. We need to find Abioye," Ayana said urgently. Kofi peeked around a corner, spotting guards patrolling a hallway. "We can't stay hidden forever. We need a distraction." He pulled the pin on a smoke grenade and tossed it into the hallway. As the guards scrambled in confusion, Ayana quickly detected the direction where Abioye might be. "Omari's greatest weakness is his arrogance," Ayana remarked. "If we keep disrupting his plans, he'll lose his balance." Deeper within the corridors, Abioye came across a locked door. His hands were weary, but his resolve remained unshaken. From behind the door, the faint sound of a video playing reached his ears. He approached the keypad and cautiously entered a code. The door slid open, revealing a projector playing an old video of Omari's childhood. "This was all meant for you, but you took it all for yourself," a voice from the projector echoed. Confusion clouded Abioye's face. "Why is this video here? How is this part of Omari's system?" Before he could process, the cold barrel of a gun pressed against his neck. "So you finally made it," Omari's icy voice whispered in his ear. The warehouse field had now transformed into a battlefield. While on one side, Omari was demonstrating his power and intellect, on the other, Abioye was taking the biggest risk of his life. Darkness loomed everywhere, but strangely, an intense hope was igniting in every person's heart. The hope of victory. Omari was in his control room, his face bearing the same self-assured smile that had always been his signature. But today, something was different. There was an unusual restlessness in his eyes. CCTV footage of Abioye's every move was playing across his screens. Just then, one of his agents entered and informed him, "Zuri has compromised some of your system's codes." Omari's face tightened. He simply said, "If she's not with me, then today is her last day." Abioye was now in the basement of the warehouse. In his hand was a tracker that Zuri had given him, but its signal was weak. Everywhere around him were wires, traps, and security cameras. One wrong move could be his last. But he steadied himself, took a deep breath, and said, "Today, I will either win or die, but I will take my parents' revenge." Abioye needed to contact Zuri through his communicator, but suddenly, a warning light started flashing. The warehouse's self-destruct mode had been activated. Zuri was seated in front of her laptop, attempting a hack, but her mind and heart were conflicted. Could she reveal Omari's biggest secret and save Abioye? Or should she make a selfish move like Omari and find a way to escape? For a moment, she closed her eyes and spoke to her heart. "I cannot support the wrong. Fighting for Abioye is my duty." Zuri entered a final command that would crash Omari's surveillance system. She activated her communicator and said, "Abioye, hurry. You only have 10 minutes. But remember, every second of what you do is crucial." Outside the warehouse, Ayana and Kofi's team was ready. They had analyzed Omari's empire's weak points, and their mission was to disrupt Omari's resources. Ayana signaled, and Kofi, along with his team, broke through an entry point. They began distracting Omari's armed guards so that Abioye could focus on his mission. Ayana activated her communicator and told Abioye, "You're not alone. We are with you. Just stay focused on your plan." Finally, Abioye found a hidden chamber where Omari was in his last command center. It was now a battlefield between the two. Omari looked at Abioye and said, "You think one person can change the whole system? You're wrong. Power and control stay with those who aren't afraid." Abioye replied, "And you're wrong. Power belongs to those who fight for justice." Omari attempted to attack Abioye with a concealed weapon, but Abioye was already prepared. An intense fight broke out, with attacks coming from both sides. Abioye had only a stun device, while Omari had advanced tech and trained skills. But in one moment, Omari made a small mistake due to his arrogance. Abioye disarmed him and cornered him. An eerie silence fell as Omari hit the ground. Abioye said, "This fight was a game of power for you, but for me, it was a mission for justice." Omari's face wore a defeated expression. He finally said, "You think defeating me will change the system? The system will remain the same, even without me." Abioye responded, "When one person starts to fight, a revolution begins, and from today, people like you will never be safe." The warehouse's self-destruct sequence reached its peak. Abioye, Ayana, Kofi, and their team finally evacuated Omari's control room, but Omari stayed inside. He had accepted the end of his destruction. With a loud explosion, the warehouse structure collapsed. Outside, Zuri and her team let out a sigh of relief after witnessing the explosion. Everything had ended, but its impact would remain in everyone's heart. Abioye, Ayana, Kofi, and Zuri were now embarking on a new mission. But their work was no longer just about revenge. They were fighting to lay the foundation of a new system, one that would be a symbol of a revolution against corruption and exploitation. Abioye still carried the sorrow of his parents' loss, but there was also an inner peace, knowing that their dream was slowly coming true. He said to Zuri, "This is just the beginning. We are still fighting, but now with a new hope." This story shows how powerful human courage and determination can be. No matter how strong the system is, one person's bravery can shake it. Abioye's mission is far from over, but his journey had laid the foundation for a new chapter, one that was for justice and humanity. This was the story of Abioye, of a man who overcame the shadow of his fears and reached the light of justice. A journey that wasn't just limited to revenge, but was headed toward a new beginning. Zuri's loyalty, Ayana and Kofi's support, and Omari's crumbling empire all focus on one thing: how a person can change the world with their choices and courage. But this story is not just about Abioye. It's about all those who face challenges in life like Omari, who try to stand against corruption, greed, and injustice. Every Abioye has an Omari. But the question is, how do you face your Omari? Life is a battlefield. Often we doubt our decisions, fear creeps in, and we feel alone. But remember what Zuri said, you are not alone, you just need to take one step. So today I ask you a question. What are you doing against the Omaris around you? Those who are doing wrong, exploiting the system, and disregarding humanity? Sometimes we feel like we're a small voice, but that voice can become a flame if we all start speaking together. Just like Abioye did, you too can. So think, understand, and take a step. Perhaps your step will become a light for someone else. Because as shown at the end of the story, darkness never lasts if there's a passion to create light. This was not just a story, it was a reminder. An example of a new beginning. So now, tell me, are you ready to become Abioye?